What up, my fellow Survivor lovers? Welcome to Survivor Historian, part of the Challenge Historian podcast feed. I am your host and born-again Survivor superfan, Jacob Hollaball, and as will be the case for each and every week of Survivor 45, I have the honor of being joined by a true Survivor historian. You know and love him from co-hosting the Challenge Fandom podcast, the one and only, the great Tony Lance. Tony, how are you doing this week, my friend?
As they say on the internet, same panic, different disco. Just another week.
I love that. The internet's been full of American internet, at least, or basketball internet has been full of pop punk emo puns this week. I don't know if this crossed into your world or not, but star NBA player Jimmy Butler likes to treat Media Day every year as he calls it his Halloween, and he dresses up. And this year he came in with full fake piercings, hairdo, eyeliner, fingernail paint, going full emo, and it turned into a full day of NBA Twitter doing amazing puns like the one you just laid out. But a lot of Jimmy Eat World's puns because his name is Jimmy. But then just over and over, every pop punk emo song from the 2000s was used in a basketball emo reference, and it was a really fun day on Twitter. So you don't get those that often these days, but that one was. Yeah. So we are here, of course, to talk about Survivor episode 2. We're 2 episodes in. Some things certainly changed in this episode. We had a big whirlwind, crazy, wild episode 1, where we kind of only got to meet one of the cast, one of the tribes in this episode. Thankfully, we at least got some more time, and the 90 minutes was certainly, I think, well used. We will probably talk about that in a little bit. Before we dive into the episode itself, though, quick programming reminders. Challenge USA 2, episode 13, whatever episode is happening in like 2 hours from right now, that recap will be up. Basically, if you're listening to this, that episode recap is probably out too, because we are recording this podcast immediately before watching and then recording for Challenge USA 2. So that is either out right now, unless you're really awesome and listening to this right as we post it late Thursday night, and in which case it will be out tomorrow morning. Season 39 of the challenge starts on October 25th. We will have the preview podcast out for that the Monday prior, so 9 days prior, on the 16th. I can do math live on air. 16th about them. And otherwise, Survivor will be back every week. And as you know, you heard us here back on Monday, only 4 days ago. As we said then, we will say again here, we will do our best to be here every single week. We are not going to promise what night that is on. Thursdays might work, Fridays might work, the weekend might work, Mondays might work, but we will be here at some point if we can. Hopefully not if, we will make it happen sometime every week. It just could be any old day. So surprise, it's Thursday this week. And as for our agenda for the podcast today, we're sticking to what we did before. And I think what will become the basic template for the whole season. It just works really well for recapping reality television episodes. We're going to walk through the episode segment by segment, hit all the noteworthy moments, storylines, any opinions or noteworthy items that we want to comment on, follow that up with some awards, some power rankings, predictions, and wishes for next week. And our promise to you that I don't know that we fully mentioned last week. We did on our almost 4 hour, 3 hour long, however it was, very long preseason podcast, that our promise is going to be that these recaps will be 1 hour or less by the end of the season. Now, are we going to hit that target today? We might. We're going to try. We might, or we might hit it on the last episode of the season, but we will hit it at some point. That is our promise to you, the listener. So that's what we got on deck. Tony, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Let's do it then. Survivor 45, episode 2. Here we go. We've got to start, although it technically isn't where the episode starts, it very quickly is. We're starting with the opening credits. They're back. We actually talked about this last week. We had seen some folks that maybe would be in the know about such things, being like, hey, what the hell? Everyone wants the opening credits back. We thought they were going to be back, and then they weren't there last week. And then we got them this week, which is amazing. I love them. I'm guessing you loved them, but did you have, what were the emotions when you actually heard the song come on, heard the music, and they started, and you're like, oh my God, they did. They gave them to us. They just made us wait one extra week, a little tease.
I was stoked because I miss, like I said last time, like, it's better. We get to know the names. We get to associate names with faces. And that is so key because especially the first episode, when you don't know anyone, it's really hard to try to grab names, especially when we lost that intro. So going into it this time, I almost felt like I knew them better. And we have a friend who came over like every Wednesday to watch Survivor. She was just new getting into it, so in the off season we'd rewatch old seasons. And then she was here for the premiere, and then she moved to Ottawa and in like the next day. And so we FaceTimed last night to watch it, and like we played and paused at the same times and synced everything up so we could watch together. And I think I spiked their mic when the intro came on, and it was the actual proper intro.
Love it. Love it. I mean, it was amazing the moment they came on screen. I wonder, did you have the same thought I did? There was a small part of me that thought maybe Hannah wasn't going to be in it.
I
And
was
then when she
wondering
popped up, I was
how.
like, okay, they're not that big of assholes. Like, of course
Yeah,
they're not. But there was a small part of me that was like, maybe because Jeff, like, really didn't, was so nice about the whole thing. Maybe it was his, like, the little bit of him that was like, you know what? There's got to be some small repercussion. You quit my game. I don't like that. And
yeah,
so maybe that's why they waited. I think it actually kind of, now that it's happened and we've seen them, I could see the argument for why they didn't do it in the opening episode, because they kind of want that segment on the boat where Jeff
yeah,
does talk to, 5 or 6 people, and then they all take part in the challenge, obviously, to kind of be your true first impressions and to maybe not be colored in any way by seeing the brief, 3 snapshots of each person that we kind of get of like them doing this, them over here, them smiling, them angry, whatever. I could kind of see the argument for like, we don't want them in episode 1 because we want only the kind of things that happened on that first day or two to really be your impression of them. But I'm glad they're back. It's
yeah.
amazing. Now let's move then to, let's talk about each of the 3 tribes, kind of everything that happened with each tribe pre the journey. We get
Yes,
a long, like a long, this, I
it was like
noticed the 90 minutes for
yeah,
sure the first time, because like we didn't get to the journey until, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes in. And it was just all them on the beach, getting to know the people. And it was fantastic. Now, obviously, they break it up and go back and forth between each of the tribes, but we'll kind of stick to one tribe at a time here to make more sense for us. Let's start with
sure.
Lulu. They're still the stars of the show here. For better, for us, for better, for the viewer, for them, kind of for the worse.
Yep.
Anything from Lulu day 4, night 3, and day 4, from when they get back from tribal to up to the journey, that stood out to you, that surprised you, that you had a strong opinion on?
I stuff I like the shot of the empty fire pit.
Oh,
Just kind of like it hurt because they built that fire pit knowing they didn't have flint, and then proceeded to continue to not have flint. Like, that's rough. And they were
Bruce needs
still
to be on
sitting
their
around
tribe.
it. Yeah,
They're willing to do the work even if they can't complete the task because they don't literally have the things to do the final step. Bruce would love their tribe so much more than his own,
yeah,
potentially.
exactly. I really liked Emily in this episode. Like, across the board, everything that we got from Emily was really good. Um, I liked the conversation. I liked how she stood up for what she had said based on how she felt in that moment. But she was also, albeit somewhat begrudgingly in that very first moment, receptive to what was coming back to her. And that showed a lot of growth. And like she was really the star of this episode. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen an interaction like the initial one from Sabaya and Emily, where, as you say, she is receptive to what's standing back. I've never seen someone be as kind of defensive slash aggressive in their comebacks or their initiations of different conversations. Like the half of the conversation where she was saying things to Sabaya and the group
Yeah.
was still very kind of aggressive and or defensive, but then like completely was then the moments they were talking to her and reacting to the kind of aggression and defensiveness of her, she was like sitting there, and like there was like 2 different people. It was like
Yeah.
those didn't match to me, that the same person could, like, on either side of that conversation, could have those reactions, those seem like different people there, but like it was all genuine. It was fascinating. It definitely got contentious
Yeah,
for Emily throwing out the first of the season to use gaslit, which is I'm sure within the world of Survivor and reality competition shows, I think that term is going to start to become one of those that's maybe almost used too much or like thrown out as like a way to get out of something or other. But this was a legitimate feeling from her, but she throws out, I feel gaslit. They're having this back and forth. Sabaya comes back with I can't help how I feel, just like you can't help how you say things, which
yeah,
was, I was like, damn, okay, I don't know that this is going to get better. And to your point, I was shocked the rest of the episode
me
at
too.
where things went for Emily, because during this conversation and then immediately after, the next time we see their tribe, she's off looking for an idol. The whole tribe decides we can't let that happen. Let's all go look. Sabaya says, I'm supposed to look with you. Emily's like, nah, we ain't doing that. I'm going on my own. Don't want to fuck with any of you. You guys don't want to mess with me. It's good. And then everything kind of 180s after that. And I was pretty shocked at the
Yeah,
180 because it was so far gone, or it seemed so far gone. And obviously, we'll eventually get to, there was as much of Brandon kind of sowing the seeds of kind of like, you know we really probably, in a world where we aren't so at odds with Emily, like we would all in pretty hard agreement, including Brandon himself, that like this isn't a great situation so far or a great performance so far. So that definitely aids her, but she does amazing throughout it. And yeah, anything on the, I guess the idol search was kind of the only big other Lulu thing pre-journey, at least.
yeah. I mean, it was definitely interesting because again, like Sabaya comes and says, "I everybody is looking together. They sent me to look with you. The guys are looking as well. This is our way of including you," which is what Emily said that she also wanted, was to be included and to feel like part of the tribe rather than feeling like an outcast. And then she immediately says, "You just don't want me to find it, and you're basically babysitting me." And then like
And
it,
Sabaya's like, well, yeah, I didn't choose to be the one that got paired with you. That's for damn sure. Like, she doesn't say that, but her face kind of does.
yeah. And then Brandon being the one to find it was great. And then Brandon doing exactly what we said last week we would do, of just like, somebody else needs to take this because I do not want
Please.
this heat. Like, I still stand by that being the right move for Brandon.
Yeah.
Because play it forward, it did not get any better for Sabaya when she found it. So that, like, being like, look, this is me adamantly saying that I do not want this. I do not want to open it. I do not want to lay claim to the beware. You take it. And just as much as it was right for Brandon to not take it, it was right for Sabaya to take it.
She had definitely reaffirmed, as we hear her say later in the episode, that without totally trying to, she, was
Yeah,
pigeonholed her and Caleb originally. And that was the kind of angst that they were bringing out of like, why are we being pigeonholed as like the leaders, the alliance or anything? And they're not about that. But then by the end of this episode, we do have, I think it's pretty late in the episode, but at some point, Sabaya giving the like, I'm kind
yeah,
of leading this tribe and I didn't really expect to, but now that I am, and like the heat's off me and I'm like actually leading and they're looking to me, I'm kind of okay with it. So it definitely fit her game to take the risk. Makes sense for
yeah,
where she stands in her tribe. It made no sense for Brandon. And I still also stand by that. No matter what my position in the game, if I was out there, I would just be too scared. I just wouldn't want to do it. I
yeah,
don't think I don't have the capabilities of pulling off whatever the tasks are that the beware advantage. I don't want to put myself in that situation. So that's Lulu up till the boat. We get some great conversations, but we've alluded to them from Emily of her and Caleb, her and Sabaya. She basically apologizes to everyone. Her and Caleb especially really hit it off. We'll talk about that more later. Let's move to the Reba tribe now. So with Reba, who, we got Reba and Belo last week, certainly, but again, it turned into pretty quickly last week. I mean, the second 45 minutes of last week's episode was entirely Lulu.
yeah,
This episode, again, they really stretch out the first, hour of the show. I think the immunity challenge, I should have taken timestamps, but I think the immunity challenge happens around almost at the 50-minute mark, the 55-minute mark, and then
Yeah.
it's pretty quick through it. So we get a lot of time on each beach with each person, or with each tribe, I should say. Reba, we open with Sifu doing some really cinematic shots of him doing Tai Chi at sunrise, which I mean, the sunrise shots are always amazing, but it just fit really well and like was really, I was like, this could be in a movie.
It's
Absolutely.
very Karate
Which,
Kid.
yeah, very much. We find out he can punch trees without hurting his hand. Well,
Yep.
one hand. He can,
One,
not
just
both
one.
hands. I think he
Yeah.
does say pretty clearly, like it's this hand that I can
Yeah.
punch with. So that's an interesting thing to know. And I feel like if they showed us that, I don't know if that's just a moment of them like, this is a personality thing. Like it tells you a little, it's an interesting thing to tell you about this person, or if he's going to break his hand later or something. And they were just, foreshadowing. I hope not, but I did have that thought go through my head.
They could have just been foreshadowing the scene like 2 seconds later where he chopped a piece of the tree with machete and another piece came back and hit him in the face. Sort of like the tree getting payback for him punching it earlier. That's where I took it. It was just like a
I
very
didn't pick up on
small
that. Yeah.
a vignette, as it were.
That's good. I didn't pick up on that. And then we have Jay Maya, who is
So
still
smart.
going by Jay to everyone in her tribe, but the Chiron, if you will, says Jay Maya. So and just to not get confused with the Jays of past, we'll go. I'm going to
Yes.
go with personally Jay Maya. She's studying the code on the flag that she has decided, and is the first. She doesn't say it, but it kind of alludes to the thing we talked about in the preview when we found out
Yeah.
she was the international pun champion, which is just unbelievable. And I hope comes up somehow, some way on this season. But she's studying the code, and they're kind of making it look like she's going to figure something out with it. She thinks she's getting some letters or something, but that all just leads to her and Drew look at it. They're like, I don't know. Everyone leaves camp, and then suddenly Austin gets his opening to the one that actually has the advantage. And we do find out this episode, because Sabaya gets the beware. The bewares are different. The set of tasks are different at each camp, or we assume. I don't know. We haven't seen the third one yet. It could be the same as one of the others, but he gets to put the clue up. He finds out dig in the fallen palm tree X. So he's got his next place to go. And Austin is, kind of off to the races here as seemingly the best positioned at this point in time. We don't know a lot about the Reba tribe, but he's, the first one to have any solid positioning in the game.
Yeah. With him too, like it was interesting because he noted that the spacing is what is key for the whatever sentence was the word I was looking for. And then Jay Maya kept looking at it and couldn't make sense of it. So that tells me that without the piece that he has, you really can't figure it out, because it's all about where all the letters match up in accordance with the spaces that make the words.
It looked hard. It looked harder than it was when I just had seen the symbols and knew we had a piece of paper to hold up to it. I was like, that seems like it will be easy and not take you that long. It looked like it would be difficult to actually figure out where the hell does this go and what am I looking at. Certainly way harder than Sabaya's, who was like,
it seems
goes
so
on one corner of
different.
this paper, and it's probably the corner that matches the little outline. It has a tree that goes over. Like hers was like took her 2 seconds because it's that easy. And so I felt a little like, they're not going to be exactly fair when you're coming up with these like random things. And obviously later on, she finds out quite a big twist with her set of clues. We'll see where Austin's leads. The other thing we find out of Reba tribe, we get our first real moments with Dee, who is one of our that we both had on our power rankings last week, that we both have kind of liked from the preseason through the first episode in limited action. And I will say is also a very popular pick with a lot of other podcasters and Survivor media types, and just the kind of fandom on, at least as far as, again, for those who are newer around here, maybe don't listen to challenge stuff. Anytime I say refer to the fandom, I'm referring to Twitter. Okay. So that's what we're referring to around Twitter and Instagram, but there's not as much Survivor action on Instagram. It's pretty Twitter heavy. A lot of people like Dee. A lot of people think Dee has a lot of potential in this game. And we learn in this episode that Dee has a super long, big toe. And she can pinch people with it. She can pick things up with it. It gives her incredible balance. She pinches Sifu on the arm, which I think is hilarious. So that's the first thing we know about Dee. And the comment about the balance thing, as someone who has horrible bunions and like curved toes that leads to really poor balance, that's a real thing. And so her comment in her confessional of like, I hope none of them realize that like I have great balance and this could like legitimately help me depending on, sometimes we have to stand on really small little ledges in
Yep.
Survivor. And I was like, yeah, that's going to really help. There's specific challenges that they've done a lot in the past that would this like it was just like a legitimate advantage that your big toe is this fucking clamp that you can just stick on anything. So I liked that. Do you find it as advantageous as I do?
100%. I actually, I am well known for picking up things with my feet. Like if something falls,
Oh,
if
okay.
I won't bend over to pick it up. I will generally pick it up with my foot and bring my foot to my hand. To
Wow.
the point where when that happened, like when she had the big toe energy reveal, both my friend who was on FaceTime and Sarah were like, "Is your big toe bigger than the rest of your toes?" It's not. It is
Just
the
powerful.
same height. It's just all power. Um, I don't know why I can. I don't know how I figured out that I could, but I like pencils and things like that. If I drop a pencil or anything like that, I will try to pick it up with my foot before I try to pick it up with my hands.
Well, we got to get you and D to have a little competition or something, like a little game, and
Balance
anyone else
off.
out there with a big toe energy there. And then finally, we have a pretty interesting moment that leads to our first real interactions with Drew that we'll eventually get more of. But Sifu asked the group, would we be friends in real life? Which is a fascinating thing and interesting conversation to have on these islands of like, of
It's the
course, we're
Breakfast
all going to
Club.
end up best friend. Look at every Survivor cast ever.
Yeah.
A vast majority of them end up being like legitimately tight for life, even the ones that are like, we're there for 2 days or whatever, because, you're there a lot longer beforehand and everything else. But that like wouldn't probably wouldn't to Sifu's point in his
Yep.
question would probably not be friends in real life, even if they like ran into each other on the street or like came across each other in some setting, which was fascinating. We didn't really get to see that much of the conversation that happened
No.
afterwards. I don't know if there was one, but it leads to finding out that Julie does, in fact, has taken the mother role, not just it hasn't been put on her like other people's roles have started to be put on them. She has grabbed her role and she is trying very hard. And as we both accurately predicted in the preseason podcast, one of the only things I feel like that I've seen that I'm like, I think I got that right, was that Julie is also very much Drew is the one. She's D is her closest ally, and she tries to have a mom role with D, but Drew is the one she's like,
Yeah.
this kid's 2021. He needs a mom out here. I'm going to be his mom out here. He's going to be my ticket to get far in this game. They make it a little alliance. They pull in D and Austin. And now we've got this little 4-person Drew, D, Austin, Julie alliance brewing on Reba. What do you think about this little alliance thus far?
They're
You
kind of
believe
like
it?
my favorite. They're my favorite people on Reba that have all sort of assembled themselves into a super group, but they're also such different personalities that I don't know if you were to look at the tribe, you would say these four are aligned.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. And this leads then to Drew, which I will save his long quote for later during the awards segment because he has an amazing one here. And let's go to Belo to round out prior to the journey. So, Belo, we did get a little time with last week, and it was mostly about Bruce and Bruce trying to be fun uncle drunk Bruce
Yep.
versus dad. I've played this game. I want you all to work really hard, Bruce. And we find out in this episode that he's still doing both very
Yep.
much. He thinks he's being the fun uncle, but he's still ordering people around. However, at least as it's told via Katura, is that everyone other than her is eating up the fun uncle part and is kind of okay with the any times he's ordering them around. She is not. She is just like, why is everyone else eating this up? What is this guy doing? He's both ordering us around and then he's just acting silly. And I'm kind of over the acting silly and I'm a little bit over the ordering around. And I'm with her. What say you?
Me
I'm
too.
with her.
I I wrote in my notes, I need to ask Jacob how long you could hang out with Uncle Bruce before needing a break. Because I like, as a character on a show, like a sitcom, that's the one that I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand your role. But that's not my favorite character. And to be on a beach 5 days in with that seemingly like from the edit, that is 100% straight time Bruce. Like,
Yeah.
there's no downtime from that. That's a lot.
Well, to answer your question, if this was not on a survivor beach and he could actually be drunk and I could also be having a beverage or two, I could make it a little while, a little while.
Yes.
Um, on the survivor beach, I don't think I could make it very long. And I think I
No.
would be more vocal about it than Katara is, but she's being smart about not being necessarily vocal about it. And to your sitcom point, he does seem like a sitcom character in the
Yeah.
moment we're about to talk about, straight out of a sitcom. But that person isn't supposed to be the main character either. That person
No.
is the I have a cameo every episode. I'm the
Yeah.
goofy, guy that not even Kramer level from Seinfeld, because Kramer is a main character. Like if Kramer only showed up one time per Seinfeld episode, like that's the type of character Bruce is embodying here, except he's also the main character of the tribe and trying to be the main character of the tribe. So I'm we don't get a lot from their tribe other than the first time we see them. It's just this interaction and learning that, Bruce and Jake are vibing, Bruce and everyone are kind of vibing. They're all liking it. She's not. And then the
No.
second time we get them is right immediately before the boat arrives. And when the boat arrives, there is a slight disagreement. A couple people want to go, and who would you guess but would want to go on the journey? But Bruce and Katara, and they play rock, paper, scissors to go, and he wins. And then he not only
Yep.
wins, but then he dances his way out in victory. He dances, he walks down the beach, he's dancing, he gets on the boat, he's doing this dance move, he's doing that dance move. He's like, wait, Brando, look, what about this dance move? I've got another dance move. And then he starts doing the I'm hiding, I'm popping up, I'm hiding, I'm
Oh
popping
my
up.
God.
And
I
it's
know.
just so much. It is so
So
much.
I do have to ask you. I know this is like asking, did you hear the bomb that just went off? Can you hear the like crashing around behind me?
Yeah, a tiny bit, but it's not a problem.
All right, cool. My
I'll try to
washer
fix.
is seeming to have an allergic reaction to whatever clothes are in there, and it's
That's
like
always fun.
having a one machine mosh pit in the laundry room. So I'm hoping that it doesn't come through too much on the recording, but I figured better to announce what it is than to have people be like, what the hell is that noise?
And if you're listening right now and being like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, that's because I'm a good editor,
Boom.
but I might not try that hard. So you probably heard
Haha.
it.
Laundry. We're just like you. We do laundry. Yeah, I mean, Bruce, like, cool. Do the rock, paper, scissors, and then do like a, oh, I'm sorry, but it's me sort of thing. You don't have to dance on the boat and then dance again on the boat to a different dance. And then the peekaboo. I
I
It's a
couldn't
lot,
believe
man.
it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, wow.
If he
It's
would
not
have
the
just done the
yeah.
peekaboo, I would have been like, that was ridiculous and your tribe hates you. But he did all the other things leading up to it. And I was just like, they've got to all hate you right now. Like, how is only one of them like, are you guys like, how is one of them looking at the other four being like, you guys think this is like funny or cool? I wanted to go.
Yeah, that's not who I thought Bruce was. Saw him on like last season.
Yeah.
I was not anticipating this. And power to him, like whatever floats your boat. I was I think it's because there's such a contrast between who I thought Bruce was last season and then what kind of a person he actually is and how much he goofs around. Like he would have actually been a pretty solid member for Tika when you think of like Carson and
Oh
Carolyn.
my God, it would have been amazing. I forgot that he was on Tika. Oh my God.
That's where he would have been.
Yeah. Wow. That would have been something.
Yep.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go back. I know at least Carson was like live tweeting during these episodes. I wonder if he has said anything or mentioned anything to that fact. That is funny. Yeah, if this is his version of like drunk uncle, if he did something like this at the family reunion, like he might not be invited to the next one ever, being like, that's the uncle that no one really kind of likes. And we're like, he's here, but like, yeah, everyone kind of tries to avoid him because he's kind of a dick. Like he beat, the nephew in rock, paper, scissors and like loaded in his face for like 20 minutes. It was crazy. So yeah, I think the last thing on this might have been the first moment. If I was on his tribe, I would have referenced that he had been there before. If it was me and him were the only two that like wanted to do the journey,
Yeah.
I would be like, Bruce, this is not going to become a thing. This is a one-time ordeal that I'm going to bring this up, but we all like want to experience all these things out here. And technically, you did get like the bonus experience of doing the week at
Yeah,
Ponderosa in the first day and first challenge twice. So, like, can you let me have this one? Can you like let me have this one? There would have been the
that's a
first
fair
time
play.
that I brought it up within the tribe of like, it's nothing against you. It's not, we're not targeting you. I'm not targeting you. I like you and everything. But selfishly, to find any excuse I can to be the one that gets to go on this, I'm going to play that card in it and kind of like laugh and be like, really nice about it. I think the rest of the tribe would be like, that's fair. That's
Yeah,
something. No one has any actual argument for why they should go and someone else shouldn't.
yeah.
Good enough. There we go. So that's Belo. And then we head to the journey. So they go on the journey, and it's Bruce who has won the rock, paper, scissors for his tribe. And Drew has volunteered and been agreed upon by his group. I believe they made theirs pretty clear cut. Like he wanted to. I
There,
forget if they did anything
I want to say
for.
they might have done rock paper scissors as well. I feel like there were two instances of rock paper scissors, and then a Brandon goes, but I
Well,
could
yeah,
be
and
wrong.
then I think Drew just they. I don't remember. Theirs was quick because then Lulu's was Brandon says he wants to go, and everyone's like, okay, great. And then Emily's like, wait, I want to go too. And then they all just ignore it. And Brandon's like, oh, literally his response to Emily saying she wants to go, Brandon is like, okay, so I'll go. And he
Yeah,
just like walks
I'm gonna
out
go
and
get my
gets on
shoes.
the boat. It's just like, okay, damn. It still had it turned around 100% for Emily at that moment. So we got Brandon, we got Drew, we got Bruce. The three gentlemen arrive on a beach. They are told that, they get some time. They don't have to do the journey portion, doesn't happen together, which is slightly different than it has been
Yeah,
prior. They just are like, you could hang out at this beach. I'm sure they got some predisposed notion that, production said, okay, that's enough, or give us 10 minutes of talking or something. But they got to stand there and talk. We don't get a ton out of their conversation. It's always one of those interesting, things of like, how much was there, because we don't see Drew say anything. We see
yeah.
Drew in confessional being like, Bruce doesn't really tell us anything. Brandon tells us everything. And, Drew commenting on thinking Bruce was bad gameplay and Brandon's was good, but we don't find out if Drew shared his story, anything about his tribe or not. Anything that struck you about what is or isn't revealed in that moment between the three of them?
I found it interesting, like Drew's perception of it, because if I'm there, I will give some away, but I'm not going to give away everything, but I am also not going to completely close off the conversation. And I feel like Bruce gave a little bit, but not a lot. And then, like you said, Brandon gave everything supposedly, and who knows what he said. But to Drew, the better gameplay was to say everything, not just because that means that I have all this information, but he said, like, Brandon seems more interested in playing the game with me, whereas Bruce doesn't seem interested at all in making a connection. And I didn't think of it that way. I more so thought of like, I'm keeping my information. I'm not giving you details on my tribe so that you can use it against me.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I actually liked Bruce's version more than Brandon's. My approach in those situations would be, I'm willing to share to like gain your trust and say, because I would, if you're on a journey on day 4, I definitely want to build some sort of
Yeah,
handshake agreement with the two people I'm there with. That's the whole advantage of getting to go, really is you get a chance. It's obvious to everyone else, but you should take it
yeah,
to make a friendship or a connection with the other people. I would share things about me and people I like, or maybe even are working with, but not the other workings of the tribe and how they're
yeah,
interacting together. And so I don't know, the bit we see of Bruce, like I actually like that he was like, okay, I could share something real. I work a little harder than the rest of my tribe, and like that's the things I have had issue with the other tribes, and is that I kind of want to do the work, and I'm older, and it's all very personal to him. It is kind of like saying the other tribe like maybe doesn't work super hard, but it's like pretty a personal thing about just like his reactions to things. Whereas
yeah.
Brandon is like, here's my thoughts on each of my tribe members, but also like no one likes Emily, and this is what happened, and everything else. So I would be in that situation be someone who would be like, yeah, so far this person are like the ones I'm feeling closest to. And while we don't have strong, division yet, if we had to
Yeah.
go to tribal tonight, I'm probably like, those are the people right now. Who knows the next time we get to interact, if that'll be the case. But right now, if we're at tribal tonight, like this person and this person are kind of the ones I'm rocking with on my tribe. And like, that's what you're getting from me, my information, not my tribe's information.
Yeah.
So I thought they kind of each did a little of it. And yeah, I think Drew was just like, Drew was more happy the fact that he got all this information from Brandon. So he's like, that was better because selfishly, I just got all
Yeah.
that information. So they go on their different paths. They each have to take a different path, a couple of which we have seen before. And Drew has to go through the water from, I think it was last season when they finally changed from the
Yeah.
walk through the reeds up the hill. And I forget who it was. No, 2 seasons
It
ago.
was
Cause
two
I think
seasons ago because it was
Gabler was a
Carla
part
and
of it.
Gabler
Yeah.
and yeah.
The like treacherous, like 3 foot deep on like the rocks or whatever, like not, and Drew has to go through that. Doesn't look fun. And the other two get to walk down the beach. Although Brandon, for some reason, chooses to walk on the slippery rocks at the foot of the beach and almost breaks his ankle at one point, but hops right back up. And I'm like, dude, just walk on the sand. What
The
are you
thumbs
doing?
up to the camera was key.
Yeah, that was great. But they each go and they get to a game that they can each play where they get 3 minutes if they choose to play. They don't have to. They get
Yep.
3 minutes to take a bunch of tiles out, and all of the tiles, there's like 5 or 6 pairs of matching tiles. And then once you have them all matched, there'll be 3 left over that don't have a pair. Take the numbers on the back of those 3 and find out the right combination of 6, which order those 6 go in to open your little chest. And if you open your chest in time, you get some sort of advantage. If you don't, you just lose your vote, right?
Lose your vote. Yep.
Yeah, lose your vote for one tribal, or
Yeah,
did
just
they
the
say
next
just the next tribal? Yeah. And so we get Bruce, who passes, doesn't risk it. And we get Brandon and Drew, who decide to play. And once they decide to play, it starts off Brandon really doing really well, Drew a little slower, at least the edit would have us believe, and it
And
seemed realistic. Yeah,
throwing the tiles was just like,
I
you don't
lost
do
it.
that.
I lost
Yeah.
it because then they have the moment where they show him say like, "Oh crap," and like he goes and picks one up, and I'm like, "Oh my god, Drew's screwed," because he
Yeah.
did the completely dumb thing. I'm sorry, I've just watched a lot of reality television puzzles. Don't throw the pieces off the board into the sand. Keep them nice and stacked like Brandon is. So it's it's going great for Brandon, not for Drew. And then a full reversal at the end. Drew gets the right pairs, finds the numbers, pulls the thing out, gets the advantage. Brandon eventually figures out that he has the wrong numbers and his pairs were incorrect, and he does not get the advantage.
It was such a slight difference on those pairs too. Like I didn't realize just how close they were until they showed the two that Brandon didn't like the mixed up. And I was like, oh, okay, like those were not that far off.
No, those look very difficult.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think they were the exact same for each of them too. Because I
Yeah.
think once Branson switched his number, he had the exact same numbers as Drew. Definitely not good for Brandon, who
Nope.
is not in a great spot to begin with, and
lost his
Drew
vote.
now gets an advantage called safety without power. You can leave tribal council before votes are cast and return to camp. You don't get to vote if you choose to do this, but you also cannot be voted out. You can play this once, anytime, up until there's 10 people left, no further than that. Mr. Survivor historian, fill me in. This has not been used in the modern quote unquote 41 on game, but it sounded like this had been used before. Drew wasn't like totally shocked by this. This is a
Survivor 40
past, right?
Winners at War. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so
it's one I have watched. Oh my gosh.
Jeremy
Horrible.
Collins got it. He bought it from the Edge. He left a tribal council that he wasn't feeling totally safe on. And then I think, if I remember correctly, he pieced out. Sarah Lucina took Denise's vote. Kim played the idol on Denise, and then Tyson went out. Tyson went back to the edge of extinction for the second time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it's a cool advantage. I like it.
Yeah.
And I like the kind of rotation of the advantages that, again, we haven't seen this one in 5 seasons then, or four seasons between when we've seen it. And I think that's a good kind of barometer of rotating them in and out. And I'm interested to see how Drew uses his. And then as far
It's
as
tricky.
they when they all get back to the beach, Brandon comes clean right away, is completely truthful. And this leads to Sean, amongst others on his tribe, being like, you kind of told us you were good at puzzles, and this means you're now 0 for 2 on puzzles in the moment. So, like, take note of that. Drew gets back, and his team is, or his tribe is hiding from him, and then they run out and rub his head, which is really funny. He tells them everything. He reads them the advantage in front of them, which I was a little taken aback that
So
quickly.
was
He's
I.
like, I'm not just going to tell you everything that happened. I'm going to like make sure you believe me by reading the advantage, which I guess if you are going to tell them everything that happened, you the way to make them believe it, if you're already telling them all the truth, is to show them the thing. And says, uses it, I think, smartly to curry favor of to say immediately, I'm showing this to you because I think I can give this to any of us that are feeling in danger once we get to the merge to
Yeah.
progress all of us as Reba together. Do you agree that that was pretty smart gameplay once he explained it?
Yes, and the reason I was initially like, I don't know, dude, like that's dicey, is because, of course, you're telling everything to your entire tribe, not just the group of four that you've previously like locked it in with. But at the same time, Reba won the first challenge, so they got all their stuff, didn't have to do sweat or savvy, and then they won the first challenge. So, seemingly, in Drew's eyes, they are the superior tribe, so it's unlikely that they'll have to go to tribal anytime soon. So, it's probably not likely that he's going to need to use his advantage until the merge because he's also in the majority alliance in that six. So, when I started to kind of like put all that together, in addition to the fact that like everybody was really receptive to it, and it seemed to be what Austin really like glommed onto as far as saying like, yeah, we're ride or dies. I think it was a brilliant move. Initially I thought it was a dicey move.
I'm right there with you. And yeah, it does work really well both. Even if you want to be strong, those 4 out of the 6 for the
Yeah,
time being, you like don't want those other 2 to know, because you might be thinking in your head like, we might not go to tribal at all, maybe once, maybe the way we're
right.
looking prior to the merge. So like, I certainly don't want to spend the next 9 days before we maybe go to tribal for the first time having these 2 people that much time to know these other 4 are kind of, if they get wind that we're talking about something they're not. So tell everyone about it. It still strengthens the 4 of you,
Yep.
if anything. And then it does end up working really well by Austin, who hasn't told anyone else about his advantage, deciding he told me, I'm going to tell him, but only him. And then they have their great little moment where Drew, who we know from last week, has, the 2 sides of him. I forget what his last name is now, but, he's kind
Basile?
of got the quieter Basile, yes, the quieter nerd, and then the like part life of the party at the frat. And we definitely are getting the full Drew experience in this episode. And him and Austin kind of buddy up and team up. And then on Bello, um, we don't do we actually see Bruce get back to Bello initially? I don't know that we do, because the moment we go to Bello after the journey, we get Brando and the girls using the buffs as shirts,
Yeah.
which is a great little fun moment of bonding there. And meanwhile, during that, Bruce and Jake are kind of thinking it's, the girls are versus them. And they're not sure, they're worried if they can't even get Brando to even it up or not. And the girls definitely are thinking it's us versus Bruce and Jake. But that turns into Bruce thinking he gets Brando, he gets Kelly, he gets Jake. They have a little meeting. And now Kelly's like, wait a minute. I thought it was the girls plus Brando. Now it's the guys plus me. And eventually it ends with Brando and Kelly having a little conversation on the beach, realizing so 2 guys and 2 women want to do women versus men on
Yeah.
this tribe. And me and you are clearly in the middle, which could be really, really good, but also could be a little tricky to navigate. And so they are tight as a 2, knowing they are essentially right now the kind of crux of their tribe.
Yeah, I mean, with them too, it's like it gets so weird because I feel like ego has to come in where Jake's like, "Oh, it's me," and Bruce is like, "No, it's me." Like you have nothing to base it off of, really. you've not come into a situation where you've needed to really even look at anybody else on your tribe beyond, yeah, we're a strong team. So I found it really funny that they were just like, the girls are definitely like bonding together. They're definitely a tight group. And then both of them were like almost in a jinx situation where they're like, they're coming after me. And then Kendra said something too. Oh, it was that I think the guys are realizing, or Brando is realizing, that the girls are a tight three, so we have to stick. He has to stay with us because otherwise he'll be picked off. And I was like, yeah, but if the girls are a strong three, and he goes with the two guys, then that is also a
Three.
strong three,
Yeah.
because there are only 6 people on your tribe. But I understand, because then, like, if you go with them when you haven't been expressly invited from the beginning, then technically you're at the bottom. But also, if you're the one guy going to what's perceived as like the girls' alliance, you're also on the bottom. So it's very like it's an interesting situation over on Bello, because it's sort of like Bello and Reba are the two different versions of what happens when you don't really have to worry as much. Is they're trying to figure out how it works.
Yeah. And at this point they're 4 days in, and as we're about to get to, their worries do not come up, at least now, until it'll be day 6 or 7 that they actually have to truly worry for the first time. And with that, let's head to the immunity challenge. So we've got the immunity challenge for this episode, just the one challenge, which again, love that we get that much time at the beach with
Yes.
everyone. And the journey kind of replaces a little bit the two challenges in an episode format type of thing. This challenge, one player at a time, has to run to the top of a tower, jump off, smash a key, fall into the water, go across a balance beam, floating in the water, get to the deck. Next person goes. 3 people have to do that, retrieve 3 keys. Then the other 2 people will build a vertical coral tree like puzzle tower. One person sits out from the 2 tribes that have 6 people left. Immunity up for grabs, fishing gear reward, big and small, up for grabs, and an announcement from Jeff. A new rule has been instituted, or an alteration to a long-standing rule, which is you can no longer sit back-to-back challenges no matter what. No matter if the change was from if you had been to tribal before, you could then sit out a second time in a row, correct? And now
The
they're
tribal
saying,
resets, yeah.
yeah, now they're saying nope, absolutely no one, which some people are calling the Claire rule, because we had last season Claire sit out, I think, like so many challenges, just a lot of challenges, and really took advantage of the tribal reset portion of that. And so we get, I believe, Sifu and Katura sit out,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, Katura and
I believe so,
Sifu
yeah.
sit out. And so we go to the challenge itself, which thoughts on the challenge? Do you like this challenge, this setup?
It's pretty standard. I found it interesting that Jeff said that Hannah was voted out
He did
versus
say that.
quit. Now,
Did
I
say that.
in theory she was, because like Brandon's like, I will vote for Hannah, and then everyone else is like, yes, I will also vote for Hannah, and then she left. But she also kind of gave the ultimatum of, if you don't vote me out, I'm still leaving. So
Yeah.
I I, I thought it was interesting, and then like the more I thought about it, the more I was like, technically she did get voted out. So
And
I
he did
guess,
say the tribe has spoken, so he kind of referred to it as a vote in the moment and
yeah.
not a quit.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, I
which we
mean,
hadn't said. Yeah, they didn't bring it up. I hadn't even really thought about it again after
no,
watching the episode. It was all I thought about going into the episode, but they did not, we did not get reference to, I believe it's Kendra that was the one that went to Lulu, right? And was at
yeah,
tribal or was with Lulu. So we did not get any mention of that. They definitely have moved straight past it.
yeah,
Maybe it comes up later, maybe it doesn't. If she makes a merge, maybe it comes up again. I think even more than I thought last week now, the fact that they didn't mention it this week, I don't think Kendra is making the merge, because if she did, it would definitely come up in conversation between the people that she's met before and spent a tribal council with. So that's one prediction that I'll feel
yep,
stronger and stronger about every week. Um, the challenge stuff, I like it. It is pretty standard. And sometimes, I don't know, it's the one thing with, I go both ways with this, over in the world of the challenge. a lot of the daily challenges on that show can be really silly and dumb because they try
Yeah.
to create something brand new every time, 12 to 15 times a season for 48 seasons or whatever the hell they've done, counting everything. And that's difficult. And so some of them are amazing and some of them suck. Over
Yep.
in Survivor, there is certainly a pretty, it's not this exact challenge every time that is one of them, but like pretty run up, jump off into the water, do a little swim, do a little bounce, and a puzzle at the end is like one of the 10 to 15 templates for
Yep.
a challenge. And sometimes I do find myself, I find myself one, basically whichever one I'm watching, I always think the other one's better. And then I watch the other one. I'm like, never mind. All of the Survivor ones are like a B. Some of them are a little better, but like all of them are at least a B. And so they never have a shitty one. And then when I'm watching the Survivor, I'm like, yeah, but sometimes the challenge has amazing challenges. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. This is so cool. It's so creative. But then other one times they suck. So I think I just always want the one I'm not watching. But this one was solid. Jake D,
Puzzle though.
Emily,
The
the
puzzle
puzzle.
was nice. And he was
Yes.
very specific. This is a new puzzle. Nobody has seen this puzzle before. It is brand new for everyone,
Which
which is
Carson did
yeah.
point out on Twitter that I think this might be because of me. And you're damn right, Carson, because it was too much. I was not okay with it last season when that happened. It was just like that's not, it's one thing to build balance beams and stuff like that, but it's a whole nother thing to like have the resources at your disposal and spend the time to like 3D recreate puzzles and do them hundreds of times until you have it memorized how to do it. That's not okay. That's no fun. That's not in the spirit of the game. The swimming portion, we have Jake D and Emily do the first run, Bruce, Jay, Maya, and Sean do the second run for their teams, Austin, Caleb, and Kendra do the third runs for their teams, and it's pretty even most of the way through all of that until Kendra is the only one that takes a really nasty fall. She falls straight split-legged on the balance beam. She gets up and continues, and there's no more commentary about it, but it does not look pleasant. That's
I got the
pretty.
wind knocked out of me both times that I watched that. And
Yeah,
she
and then
lays
someone
down on the
posted the
deck.
clip, and it was like, oh.
Yeah. She lay down on the deck, and I did not blame her one bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoever,
Yeah.
I forget who posted that clip. There was a couple different people that posted that clip on Twitter, and I was like, I don't want to watch it anymore. Like, come
No.
on. I know she's totally fine, but it still makes me hurt looking at it and watching it. So her tribe is a little bit behind going into the puzzle, or no, they catch up. It's Lulu is behind going into the puzzle, but not by a lot.
No, because they were
Close
ahead
enough that
briefly.
it could happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
close. They get their third, but barely. So they all get to the puzzle within striking distance of each other. That it should come down truly to the puzzle. Yes, I believe it's Drew and Julie for Reba that do start first, just barely over Brandon and Kelly and Brando and Kelly and Brandon and Sabaya. But it's close enough that anyone could win it with a really good performance. And it turns into two really good performances and one really awful performance.
Which
and by the end of it,
Jeff was not afraid to say a lot of things about Lulu.
he's got
the
thoughts
entire
about
challenge.
Lulu. We'll come back to this because when we talk tribal council, I want to ask you about this specific thing. But he seems to have feelings about Lulu and how the game is going, because he's pretty mean a little bit.
Yeah.
Like just
like
continually comments on them.
At this point, Lulu should start considering who's going home, was said at one point, still in the middle of the challenge. And that
but he wasn't wrong.
He wasn't, but it was harsh.
Because they did not, I mean, they got what, like 4 pieces on that puzzle by the end of it, like maybe. And
it's worth noting that Emily's no slouch. Emily did really well in the challenge.
She did. No one. Yeah, she goes the fastest. She was one that she took the lead for her team
over D
on the
with
balance
big
beam.
toes.
Over D with the big toes, and Jake. And then J Maya is the only one that kind of didn't have a bad fall or seemed good, but was the only one that kind of really had to reach to smash the thing, and so kind of fell almost belly flop style. I was happy to see no one get too messed up on the fall. Drew and Julie get the win, followed very closely by Brando and Kelly, and by very closely I mean like 1 second.
Yeah.
seconds split the difference at the very end. So Reba gets the big fishing gear, Belo gets the small fishing gear. Brandon, who at multiple times says, I'm having trouble. He says, I'm just grasping at stuff, which is not something to say in front of your team while doing a bustle on Survivor. Sabaya's constantly like, well, don't grasp at something, like try to put a piece in place. And he just like hands her his piece and like takes her piece. And she's like, what is going on? It's not a good showing for Brandon.
No, it's rough.
And at this point, Lulu now winless in 3 tries plus any advantages and journeys that anyone has done, and Sweat versus Savvy, whatever. Caleb with one of my favorite quotes of the episode. Again, big basketball fan over here, and he drops this tribe is so bad. We're like the Cavs when LeBron left the first time. We suck. We can't win anything, which is just a fantastic reference, and I love Caleb. So that's that. Lulu is now takes center stage once again, and we head back to the beach. So tribal, we're with Lulu for the rest of the episode. Brandon immediately says it's his fault. He also references he knows he doesn't have a vote. He tells everyone he loves him. He loves being out there, and he kind of basically says it's going to be like, if it is what it is, mostly, which Emily follows up with, this may be bold of me, but it's between you and me, right? Like, those 3 are picking between us. And I was like, it's not bold, Emily. It's actually only bold that you threw yourself back into the discussion, because Brandon kind of just said you can vote me out. And then you were like, so it's between me and you, right? Like, what? She performs very well and does everything right during this portion, except for that one little moment where I'm like, it is still a discussion that everyone's going to have, but you didn't need to like set the table so well for that discussion. He kind of set the table for one, and you were like, no, I'm going to sit at that table with you. I'm going to also be up for elimination here. So so we find out it's 3 people picking between 2.
Yeah, with two votes among the 3 people. So it really, like, it didn't look good for Brandon from the jump, because there was already, out of the 3 votes, there was already 1 guaranteed Brandon vote.
Mm-hmm.
Because Emily was obviously going to vote for Brandon. And I give him major props for like just kind of putting it out there like that and saying, this is the situation. And it's not like he was falling on the sword or anything like that. He still wants to play, but he understands how it looks, and he understands what the perception is and how he's performed thus far. And he doesn't really make excuses for it either, other than just saying like, it was unlucky, the ones that I got and the ones that I didn't do well on, and I'm better than my performances have been. And like, I don't doubt that, because when you factor in like such a huge fan of the show, so every moment, and especially now that they film, like we talked about in I think the last episode, where everything's filmed in Fiji, so everything is a landmark. So you're at the beach that some of your favorite players and some of your favorite tribes have been on. So everything you can be like, so and so did this there, so and so did this there, and it's just everywhere. So you're inundated with Survivor when you're on the show. And I felt like it was very much like he was sort of a fan within the show that was also playing, but was also kind of separate from the show, and also sort of transcended the show, because I can't really think of anybody who finished second on another season who has been like such a well-loved player. And I could see like a Survivor second chance Brandon.
Yeah, certainly.
For
We'll
sure.
We'll see how, obviously it's not a spoiler if you're listening to this recap, that Brandon's going to go home, and we'll talk about it here shortly, but we'll see how the rest of the season goes, and if he if there's enough kind of star power the rest of the way for the memory of him to recede a little bit, or if it'll stay. I think it'll be a little bit up to how many people become beloved cast members from this point on the rest of the season, if it kind of pushes him out of the memory bank a little bit or not. But either way, certainly as far as someone who goes home on the second episode having a shot at a redemption season or whatever, he's definitely got as good as you could have from a
Yeah.
couple episode performance. I will push back on you on one thing. If
What?
Brandon has his vote, I think there's a world where Emily and him would have voted together for someone else, because we do get the one moment from them after they send the other three go off
Yeah.
and they're looking for the idol, unbeknownst to those two, but where Emily does the sarcastic, it must be hard being in the power alliance and having all the power, and they like have a laugh. And I was like, dude, if you had your vote, you two right now are talking about, hey, everyone thinks it's this. Brandon eventually like has the knowledge, or eventually I
Yep.
think gets the knowledge that Sabaya doesn't have a
Has the
vote.
knowledge. Yeah.
And so I think if Brandon has a vote in this, they have a discussion of, yeah, it with us two, it can at least tie with someone
Yep.
else. So do we want to sabotage this whole thing and say you don't get to get rid of the guy that sucks or the girl that you hate? Nope, we're both going to rocks at worst here. But he doesn't have his vote, so I think that ultimately comes back to haunt him as much as anything. Sabaya, with the help of Sean and Caleb and Brandon at different points, goes to the same tree 4, 6, 7, 8 times in a row until they figure out there she spots the coconut and all the palm fronds and the rope leading up to it that seems very out of place. They chop down the rope, it falls. Everyone celebrates. They're so happy. Sabaya has completed all the tasks. Oh my God, she's going to have an idol. And then it is covered in wax and you
And
have
you
to
have to
burn
burn
the
it.
candle. And they haven't won jack shit the whole season and don't have any fire and haven't even tried to make a fire any other way. I know
Brandon did a
probably
couple of
could.
times because excuse me, Brandon had the droplet of water on his glasses
Oh
that
yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah. He
trying
was
to.
trying.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, but to no avail. And so that moment was hilarious and just like incredible. That
The
worked out so
highs and
incredible for the
lows.
production. They had to be high fiving of like, this couldn't have worked any better. That the person that found this, like their team, it doesn't have anything. She can't even go through the what would typically be if they had fire of, well, this is going to be pretty obvious that I have to burn a candle for like 8 hours. Someone's going to ask about this. She's not even on that step yet. She's like,
No.
I don't even have anything to burn this. So that happens. We have some talks, and basically we head to tribal with it being very clear that Sabaya is still on the kind of side of, I think I maybe want
Loyalty.
Emily out. I think that may wear on me more. And Sean and Caleb are both pretty firmly on the, well, we're okay with Emily. And secretly, Caleb is like, I definitely want Emily to
Yeah.
stay, unbeknownst to all of you, but we are weighing how Brandon might drag us down in the challenges versus how Emily might drag us down in just the camaraderie of the tribe. And so we head to tribal council with it up in the air a little. But when you remember that Savaya doesn't have a vote and she's the one of the three that's kind of like, I went over here, you two went over here, you have a pretty good idea of where it's going to go.
Yeah. Now, in your hypothetical where Brandon has a vote and he tells Emily that Sabaya doesn't have a vote, does Emily go with Brandon, or does Emily take this as her moment to really solidify herself and say, I want to play with the three of you, and say, Sabaya, I know you don't have a vote because Brandon told me. I will be your third vote.
I think she is smart, and I think that she, based off her conversations with Caleb, uh, is both intelligent and is now reading the tribe and her
Yeah.
path back into good graces and a safer position correctly. And I think that you're spot on that probably ultimately happens, because there wouldn't be an obvious one between Caleb, Sabaya, and Sean for Brandon and Emily to be like, you know,
Yeah.
this person is the out one of those three. And so like, we could smooth it over with the other two or whatever. That person doesn't exist. It's a pretty tight three, or just a congenial three. It's not like a tight alliance, but just a congenial, like
Yeah.
we're all doing well and we all like each other so far. And yes, I think she would have immediately went to Caleb first and said, I think this is the right move. I'm going to tell you this. And then can you help me tell Sabaya
Yeah.
and Sean too in the best way possible? So yeah, I think that happens. But what happens in actuality is they head to tribal council with only 3 votes to be cast. They open tribal. Jeff opens tribal. They talk a little bit about the previous tribal. Again, without saying anything about the stuff that we didn't see. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're
think we're
only
past
going
it.
to know what Jeff and others say on podcasts versus ever having any reference to having it happen on the season itself. They then, Jeff deduces pretty quickly what we all know it is between two people, and he kind of turns it into like a jury almost
It's like
of
a town
like,
hall. Yeah.
yeah, of like, okay, well, if it's between you two, we'll let you each make an opening statement, and then I'll ask the other three like a question or two, and then we'll let you each make your closing statement, like your goodbye survivor, I'm getting voted out statement, and then we'll vote. Sound good? And they do exactly that, which is, I mean, it actually makes for a better tribal than
Yeah.
I don't always love tribal council. It's kind of tough in the small tribes. Like a lot of they just don't say anything. And Jeff tries his best and he's really good at it, obviously, at this point
And
of
it takes
trying to find the
hours.
most interesting conversation to have. And yeah, they
Yeah.
edit it down to like the best parts. But this one I was like, that's good job reading the room and not being worried about impacting the game by maybe there is someone thinking it's not one of those two or whatever, and Jeff not being worried about that, be like, okay, so it's one of you two, good, okay, let's talk about which one of you it's going to be. Any thoughts about performances or anything that stood out from anything anyone said?
I mean, I think it's great that Emily, the one thing that they weren't sure about Emily was playing her shot in the dark, and she was astute enough. She read the situation and she gave it to Sabaya to just say like, "Look, I'm gonna let this play out the way that it plays out. I'm not playing my shot in the dark. You guys do what you need to do, but this is me putting my game in your hands, basically." That was key. I mean, I appreciated everything that Brandon said. Um, and just like the level of fandom and saying that he has a contrasting story than I do. So he watched Survivor to suck up to his teacher. When I was in high school, I had sort of like disconnected. I was not challenged, so I sort of checked out rather than like learning on my own. And I had a teacher who she knew that I was going to be in her class and she knew that I knew how to do things, but also that I wasn't super keen on doing them because I didn't feel like I needed to. And I was big into Lost and I still am and I stand by it.
Oh god, do we
She
have to
over
start
the
another podcast? Oh my gosh.
I know, right? She watched the first two seasons over the summer from the one year ended to when she was going to have me as a student in high school in English, and she watched those two seasons so she would have something to connect with me on. And then every time that there was a book referenced, within by the time that the next episode aired, I got a copy of that book with a note about like how it connected. And
Wow,
I still
that's
have them. And like,
incredible.
she's one of my favorite teachers. She's one of my favorite people. She's who got me through high school. She's who got me into literature. And like, she also watched Survivor. And like, I related to that story really, like, on a really deep level because that's like the total parallel. And to kind of see him go through those machinations and like understanding that it's quite possibly like the last time that I'm going to say anything on Survivor because this is kind of a done deal. Um, he he did it with such grace. No ill will, no hard feelings. Like he knows that his performance wasn't the most amazing performance, and he's sort of like come to terms with that. And I think that the 90 minutes is why Emily is why we have 90-minute episodes. That arc
Yeah.
of her being standoffish even at the start of this episode and having that super genuine moment with Caleb about, and you can see it change, you can see everything shift, and you can see the attitude change. And I really hope that she keeps it going forward because she went from being somebody who was like, I don't know, to somebody that I genuinely like on the show.
Yeah. What was that teacher's name?
Uh, Anne Stockdale.
Wow, shout out to her. That's amazing. Teachers
Yeah.
are so great. Yeah, pay them more. Um, that's incredible. And yes, massive Lost fan over here. I don't think we've talked about that before, but now
No,
we
we
will,
haven't.
probably plenty.
Yes.
Yeah, love Lost, loved this tribal council, and as much as I've really enjoyed Brandon, who I will admit I love Brandon, even if he was my arch nemesis going into the season. Because I mean, come on, dude. I bet you would enjoy a game of Catan. You just haven't played with the right people yet, Brandon. Just haven't played with the right people. It happens. Some people don't, they're a little meaner when they play. Come play with me. We'll change your opinions. I would love to hang out with them, but I do think when it came down to the two of them, I was glad he went for the sake of I wanted to see more of this arc from
Yeah.
Emily. So if it had to be one of the two, I was okay with it being Brandon. And also, while you can relate very well to his story about the teacher, and that was an incredible story you just shared, Jeff related by telling the story of being cut from the basketball team and becoming the water boy and called Brandon the water boy of his tribe. And I see what he was trying to do, and Brandon took it really well, but I don't know if that would 100% landed Jeff. That's what
No.
I'll say about that. And also, like, Jeff, there's no way. I don't know. I didn't totally believe it either. I was like, Jeff, I know, you're like short, so basketball. I don't know, but you're like, were you not? You seem like athletic as like a 50 something, 60 something, however old you are now. Like, were you? People change obviously over all those years. But anyways, I thought that was a funny long diatribe by Jeff that they made sure to fit in and use 20% of tribal council for him to talk about getting cut from the basketball team. 2 votes, both for Brandon. We assumed the third maybe also is for Brandon. I didn't
It was,
watch.
yeah.
Yeah, after. Okay, great. Which, as you said, very graceful in the exit. He stands up and looks around. He's like, "Are you guys going to give me hugs? Like, what the hell, guys?" Thanks, Jeff, for living his dream. Says it's all really cool. Jeff is like, all right, get out of here. And this is the moment that I referenced earlier, and I'll ask you now. Jeff does not like this tribe. And I think this is executive producer Jeff being like, you're kind of fucking up my game right now. Like, you guys weren't supposed, like, no tribe's supposed to like be this bad or like be this bad and then also have someone quit. And like, I think Jeff's kind of had it with this tribe and is maybe a little nervous in the moment of like, they're making it harder for us to make a compelling television show because he maybe isn't fully in the moment, like seeing like, no, you've got like this incredible, like the chaos is incredible on the first episode, this arc for Emily on the second episode is really good, like you've got a good season thus far in this moment.
Yeah.
But I think there's a part of him that's like, this tribe is ruining this season, and like his anger is, it's there, and he maybe feels like he's not supposed to show it anymore, but you see it in little glimpses. And the okay, get out of here kind of felt like one of those glimpses where it was like, Jeff's a little upset. Jeff's not feeling Lulu.
It was funny because like he has that line and I was like, is he pissed at that they like that it was cordial? Like no, there was no ill will, there was no bad blood, like, but then when it showed, so it showed him saying that, and then the next shot is Brandon leaving and like patting him on the shoulder, and then Jeff's laughing. But then when he goes back to the tribe, he doesn't say anything. Normally he's got like some like one liner button that sort of says like what the tribal was about, and it just says grab your torches and head back to camp. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, normally you at least leave them with something. I am interested to see how next week goes, to see not just how like Lulu performs, but also just to see if he's that like poking the bear
To
of
see if he walks into the reward challenge is like, and Lulu, guess what? Jonathan Young from season 42 is here, and this is just swimming. You get to pick one person to swim for your contest. How do you feel about that? Yeah, maybe he brings in a mercenary for them or something crazy. Yeah, we'll see if there's still some feelings sizzling underneath there. So that's everything that happened. Now let's recap and hand out some trophies. Quote of the episode to start, and there was a lot of them. I'm just going to read my nominees here, and then you let me know if there's any that need added. But I've got 5 that I have to at least give some time to here. A few that we've already said. For chronological order, Sean, right at the start of the episode, quote, "I'm feeling like a Lululemon right now. We are going through the ringer." Loved that one. Second one from Sabaya. "I can't help how I feel, just like you can't help how you say things." We already referenced that earlier, but I thought that was savage. Drew's long quote that I didn't say earlier that I will say now. "Want to be the kind that wants to to domineer on the tribe, and I have to tone that down now, but I do envision a time when my realm will stretch to the whole beach. And right now, I'm just marshaling my troops and building my feudal alliances to build this kingdom, which was something else from Drew. I fucking love Drew. He's
He's
amazing.
amazing.
Emily, quote, I brought a bazooka to a tea party and I need to put the bazooka down. Good strategy. And then Caleb, which I already said, this tribe is so bad. We're like the Cavs when LeBron left the first time. We suck. We can't win anything. Do you have any other quotes to add to those?
I do. So also, I will say, Emily's bazooka quote also made the episode title. So every episode
Yes.
title is a quote from within, and that she
Who had
got.
it week one?
I forget,
I
but
forget
I
too.
saw it. I saw it on my TiVo and then probably forgot. Um, but I will bring it back. So Big Toe Energy, just plain and simple, was one of my favorites because I really like D. And then when Sabaya came back with the note to let Sean and Caleb in on it, and Caleb's just like, dude, you keep pulling out more paper because she just like had all of these components to her tasks. I did also have the bazooka and the tea party. Also, when they hit the beach, and Emily was like, "Do you think that boat's for us?" And Brandon goes, "No, I think they're delivering food. Of course, it's fucking for us. Why wouldn't it be for us? It's for us." And
Yeah,
that is something that
it's
I
so
would
funny.
say, and it just like killed me. To the point where one of my coworkers today said, "You know, I thought that I was like a fairly sarcastic person, but you take the cake." And I chose to take it as a compliment, but I'm not 100% sure if she meant it
It's
that
a
way.
compliment.
It's
Yeah. If
definitely
she
a
doesn't, she
compliment.
should. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also Brandon had two. So the other one was Brandon when he was trying to do the like the combination lock, and he goes, "I've been waiting a long time to do this, and we're still gonna wait." Okay.
That was also good. And I love non-confessional nominees for quote of the week. The in the
Yes.
moment wit is always gets a little extra bonus points for being in the moment. Well, if I had to pick one on my end, I'm too big of an NBA nerd and fan that I got to go with Caleb's reference to the LeBron list Cavs. What say you? What's your pick for the quote of the week?
Ugh, it's between Big Toe Energy and I've been waiting a long time to do this, but I'm gonna give it to Brandon because the delivery was just pure perfection.
Love it. Then to best moment, favorite moment of the episode. My nominees for this would be D pinching Sifu with her toe, uh, Bruce doing way too much on his way to the journey. The end of the journey games themselves was pretty high pressure and interesting. The juxtaposition of Drew and Brandon, and then Sabaya finding the idol and then realizing it's covered in wax and they don't have fire. Those were the four biggest standout moments to me. And I'll also throw Emily and Caleb's first walk together conversation where they start to try to mend and build in there as well. What say you? Other nominees to add to that list?
Those are my two. Or I've got three. So Caleb and Emily, for obvious reasons. Sabaya and Sean and Caleb finding that, rolling it out, and just the realization. And then, for obvious reasons, Brandon with his whole little spiel at Tribal about how he started watching Survivor.
Love
Um,
it. What's your
I
pick?
I will give the edge to Caleb and Emily because it was 100% not expected at all and so worthwhile.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the idol being covered in wax. I just think I have the most respect in the world for the production team and the operations team that is Survivor, and I just really hope that there was actually. I imagine there are high fives in the production booth from time to time when things work perfectly, and this had to be one of those moments. And I just thought it was just too
it's
good of a moment.
it's so good because they couldn't have anticipated that,
No,
but also it
you would
reminds
assume
me,
at this point there's
yeah,
been three opportunities. You would think there's only one tribe that doesn't have Flint by now, whoever lost last,
yeah.
and that's 33% chance that it's the one that we put the candle on the beach. Yeah, so
Well, exactly, and it reminds me of on 42 when they put the reward in the fish, but Jonathan gutted them and threw it in the fire so quick that though nobody saw the advantage. It just
I
burnt.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Speaking of, that was a horrible gameplay moment. Best gameplay and worst gameplay. Any nominees for both of those? We're going to split it up because last week we ended up saying nominees for both, and it's more
Yes.
fun to talk both. So, nominees for best gameplay of the episode.
I both of these are like with hindsight. So Emily giving Sabaya the shot in the dark. Risky in the moment, best move over all of the episode.
Yes, I'm right there with you. I think that might be the one I would pick. I also had Drew telling his team again, it just
Yeah,
because it works out really, really well. And then I also had Katura not showing her feelings towards Bruce, being the one on the tribe that's not vibing with it, but being smart enough to like,
totally.
I'll tell the camera and the producer holding the camera or whatever. That's fine, but I'm not going to tell my tribe yet because there's no reason to yet because we keep winning and stuff. So yeah, those would be my three picks. But yeah, I would say Emily giving Sabai a shot in the dark is my winner. As for worst gameplay, I don't think anyone had any big blunders where they did something completely wrong, because we really didn't have anyone like lie or hide almost anything in this episode at any point, and no one that told the truth. I disagreed with them telling the truth. So the only thing I could come up with, which isn't really gameplay because it wasn't on purpose, but I think the most consequential thing in the negative was Brandon losing his vote, because I think it would
Yeah,
have been the only thing that gave him a shot to, again, as we discussed, the hypothetical that he has a shot. I don't think he realizes it, but he at least has a shot. Um, and although I guess he did have a shot in the dark, he didn't use it. Wasn't he the one
he
that said
couldn't.
he was going to use
If
the
you don't
dark?
have your vote, then you
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
can't
Never
shot
mind.
in the
So
dark.
he didn't. Yeah. So then, well, yeah, he could have at least then had the shot of convincing Emily or playing a shot in the dark. So I know that isn't gameplay. He obviously wanted to win the advantage, but because there wasn't any noticeable bad gameplay, that was the only thing I had as far as like the most consequential in the negative.
I was able to create a through line, so mine was Brandon risking his vote as the gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, again, I guess to play devil's advocate, there's always the like, I want to play because I'm out here.
Oh,
Get that.
absolutely.
Totally get that. But then there's also the I said I was good at puzzles and I've failed. And so this would be a way for me, because I know if I get this, I'm going to tell everyone
Yeah,
that I got it. That this is a way to be like, it was a puzzle that you played individually and I got it. And it was great. And I dominated. And I'm good at puzzles. I swear. I told you I was. So I could get if his argument was I needed to play, not even because I
yeah.
needed the advantage, but I like needed to prove to them, maybe even to myself, that like I was good at something out here or this was made for me. But I see your point that yeah, it also is like, dude, you have no need to play this. Like you're in the clear on
Well,
your team at that moment, at least. Then eventually after the next challenge would have probably still resulted in the same result, maybe more or less. But
I think it's one of those things where I guess best move, worst outcome, because it was his best move to play it, like to risk the advantage or to risk to get the advantage because he needed it. Lulu needed something in order to kind of even just like boost morale to be able to come back and be like, look, I got this thing. We've won something. Like we're on the up. But then by losing it, it became sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where because it was a puzzle and because he had said that he was good at puzzles, that then to like for those dominoes to fall. And that's where the hindsight comes in of like Emily giving the shot in the dark is a great move and him risking his vote is not a great move, but only once all the cards are dealt and you see everything.
yeah, certainly. What about MVP? Who do you got for the MVP of the episode?
Emily, with an honorable mention to Caleb for putting out that olive branch and honestly for giving her a shot as he didn't need to. He's already in a group like a solid 3 with a potential 4. There's no need to do that, but being the guy that he is, he was like, "No, I want to at least try."
Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
feel that yet again we diverge in our how we assess this award, with you going a little more on the who had good gameplay slash good human being, and me going purely entertainment, who I will remember the most from the episode. And that's why my guy Drew is getting my MVP for the episode, because I loved every minute of Drew that we got. And Drew is the first person to have infiltrated the Lulu dominance of the first 2 episodes and be like, no,
It's
no, no,
true.
no. I'm going to make you pay attention to my tribe for just a little bit over here, just so while I'm building my feudal alliances, you're going to pay attention to Drew. And I paid attention, and I love Drew. And that takes us into our final topic of discussion, our power rankings and predictions. Did your power rankings change? And now this is where your side of the MVP debate, the best gameplay, again, for those who are newer around here, the power rankings strictly based off of who we think can win the game. This is not who we like the most, who we are rooting for, but who we think is the best position to win the game at this point in time. Tony Lance, did your power rankings change at all from week 1 to week 2 with the new
A
information?
little bit.
Okay,
Just a
what do we
little
got?
bit. So we got Sabaya, Kelly, Caleb, Drew, D.
Sabaya, Kelly, Caleb, Drew, D. Okay, we are 4 for 5, the same, not in the same order, but 4 for 5, the same for the second week in a row. You got Sabaya 1 then? Were you reading that 1 to 5
Yep.
or 5 to 1? Why
1 to
Sabaya
5.
first?
Yeah.
You like her position the best, even though she's on Team Lululemon, as Sean put it?
She's on Team Lululemon, but she's the least likely person to catch a vote if they go back to tribal. And then I feel like even if they go back as 3, it's more likely that Caleb and Sabaya would vote for Sean than Caleb and Sean would vote for Sabaya.
Okay, I see that. I see that. I like it. I like it. And again, interestingly enough, Sabaya is the one difference we have on our list, although I do think she is in a solid position in the game. I'm looking back at my list though here. Do I have 3? I guess you're gonna 3 from one tribe isn't that crazy when we're talking about a list of 5 and there's 3 tribes. It's not insane. I have D, Austin, Drew, Caleb, and Kelly. I have still not quite put them in order, but I will give D the number 1 spot for the time being. I think all 5 of them are in a very good position thus far, and I've only got one Lululemoner on there. That would be Caleb, who, you know, maybe it'll be interesting to see between he and Sabaya and Sean. Um, if things played out how we might expect, like if they were to lose and they vote Emily out and then go again, what would happen between those 3, or if they lose again now that Emily's in the good graces, whether that how that changes the dynamics of the tribe. I don't know.
Right.
That one actually was a little bit more of I love Caleb so much. I'm like totally over the moon about that guy. He's just
Me
cool
too.
as hell and I love him. And so he was my member of the power rankings from that tribe. But I think the Reba tribe is just looking great in
They are.
general, and I like where D is at. And then I've got to have my girl Kelly on there because she was my winner's pick, and I'm going to remain confident in it until given reason to think otherwise. Speaking of predictions and winners picks, we are no longer changing our winners picks. We both stuck after the first episode of the season with our preseason pick, which was Kelly for me and Sabaya for you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Looking ahead to episode 3 or beyond, first and foremost, I didn't put this in our outline, but I will ask you about it anyways because it just came to mind. We did reference it last week, and I had you fill me in on the history of it. Do you think that we have a chance for Lulu to get down to 2 and to have a split?
I
And how
I
mad would Jeff Probst
feel
be at that point?
he'd be super mad.
Or is he now right now he's like, all right, if you're gonna do this, you guys better you better be such a train wreck that we get to institute that other thing, and that's interesting again. Like, I don't know where his tipping point is.
I don't know. I mean, like, we haven't had a proper tribe swap, and like I've been itching for a good tribe swap. They just haven't really done it.
Who do you want to
So
be swapped? If they swap next
I
week,
just
one person, who do you want to be the mover from each tribe?
I just want to see everybody. I want to see drop your buffs, and I want to see everybody pick a new buff,
Oh,
and I
you
want
want
to
a
see how it
total
falls.
okay,
Yeah,
not just a one person. Yeah,
I
the one person ones are always, especially in the small
yeah
4 to 6 person tribe, is too much of a disadvantage to be the new person.
yeah, and I didn't understand that. That was weird because it was just like it's so hard to gain your footing. Carson was the
Yeah,
only one that really seemed to be able to just like do it easily.
but they
Um,
didn't go to. Did he have to go to tribal council once with his new tribe?
something
And
like
I feel
that.
like he
Yeah,
maybe had an advantage or had uh somehow, some way was kind of not on the bottom,
protected.
but
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. a full mix up, that would be interesting.
Just because we haven't, like, it's been a while, it's been a
I
minute,
mean,
and like,
I would definitely like to see Bruce and Emily both have to be first impressions with a brand new tribe again. That would be, if we had to relive it, then I'd be here for it. I'd be probably enjoy watching it. Um, I think we're headed. I think it's going to happen. I think Lulu's going to
you
win
think we're
or
gonna,
lose the first four. I think it's going to happen.
yeah. I
I'm kind of rooting for it, not because I'm rooting against those people, but because all four of them left. I mean, we have obviously spent the most time with them, so
right.
I like them all now. But I think it would be interesting to have a team lose the first four in a row.
Well,
As much as it would suck to lose two of those four people that remain, but I think it would be interesting.
I think it would also be interesting to see what happens when Bello and Reba end up, like, they're gaining a new player, or if they go in with a fairly large majority, slash, if they have to go to tribal right before a merge. Because you've got all that build up, you've got that momentum, you've got that we're in a tight six, we're going to run this post merge, and then you have to knock one of the people out of your six.
Yeah, that would be good. Especially either way, if it was really prolonged, it's going to probably be prolonged for one of them, if not maybe even both.
Yeah.
But the longer a tribe goes without having to vote anyone out, and suddenly it's like day 14 is the first time I actually have to think about this, it is its own interesting gameplay that has to take place then, of just patience, of allowing any real alliances or allowing information flow to go around and everything else. I know that Survivor doesn't pull as much chicanery as certainly other shows do, but I think the greatest thing would be if Lulu lost four straight and we get to two people left, and let's just say it's Caleb and Sabaya, and Jeff's like, Caleb and Sabaya, you're, each on one of those teams, but both of you are safe for one tribal council. So you can go join. You will not be the immediate target. We'll give you the grace, which I don't think is like too crazy of a thing to do. Wouldn't be too
No.
crazy of a thing to do if they've survived four tribal councils, and to be like, you get to be safe on the next one because you're the new person in a tribe of seven. That's pretty tough.
Yeah.
I think that would be the most interesting dynamic then, to be like, that tribe's gone. It's day 14. One of you two tribes is going to tribal council tonight, and you're not allowed to vote out the new person. You have to vote out one of you, but you do have a new person that has a vote, maybe advantages, whatever. That's my hope. For I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be my hope. Who do you think goes to tribal, or who do you not think? Who do you hope goes to tribal? Who would be the most entertaining to end up at tribal next week?
Bello.
Because based off everything I've said the last few minutes, my answer is obviously Lulu again.
I'm Bello. I I don't wish ill on anybody who's there right now. I've genuinely liked everybody that's on this season. There's not really anybody that I dislike, and now that Emily has really kind of seemingly turned a corner, there's not even a villain anymore on the season.
Well, it was fun for one episode.
Yep, it was good for an episode. But yeah, I would like to see Bello. I would like to see how that dynamic ends up playing out, because there are so many like alliances within alliances and overlapping people that it'll be really interesting to see how the dust settles. Whereas Reba seems to be a very tight 4+2.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you. I want it to be Lulu just because I guess I'm kind of rooting for this disaster train to continue and to get I would love to see the two people just go to the other tribes and we get two tribes. I think that would be interesting, as much as I don't want those people to go home. Last final question for you, Mr. Lance. One person, who do you hope gets a lot of screen time next episode? Who do you hope we get to spend some time with next episode?
I would say J Maya, because we really like, she's kind of the silent cast member right now. Other than the little bit with the sign at the very beginning, I have not seen much with her. I can't tell you that there's been a story arc with her, but there has been with everyone else.
Yeah. Is she the least, I guess?
Yeah,
Because Kendra and Kelly had the little witchy alliance thing
and Kelly's in the
that,
middle of all those.
yeah. and Katura was a part of that, and then a part of like the angst towards Bruce. So like,
Sifu
and
was punching trees.
Brando did Sweat versus Savvy, and then had the putting on the buff thing today. So yeah, I guess J Maya's probably been the most in the background so far. Um, Slightly behind, everyone else that hasn't had a ton of screen time. But yeah, we've had
Yeah.
a moment or two with everyone, and kind of that was the first time we even had a very brief thing that really didn't have much to do with her herself. Okay, I like that. I was going to say, I'm definitely riding high on Drew right now after this episode, his MVP performance. So we could take 1 week off of Drew, but I hope we do get a lot of Drew across the season. So if I had to just say for next week, I think it's Katura, just because I'm really interested, and I probably would ultimately maybe even change my answer to the last question to like to be with you to Bello to go, because I'm interested to see how the Bruce dynamic,
Yeah.
and if it actually is just her that is kind of like, this is a lot, this is a little annoying, or if it turns into the moment they would have to go to tribal, like everyone's like, yeah, so Bruce, okay, a lot, right? Like, do we really need him ordering us around and dancing and all this stuff? I would be interested in seeing that. So I want her to get some screen time, and I'm okay with whoever goes to tribal. I think it'll be a good episode. I think it's been a good season so far. I think we're off to a solid start. It is a bummer that we don't have a villain anymore. God bless you, Emily, for that one episode run. Feel free to go back. Feel free to go back to the dark side, Emily. Take Caleb with you. I think that would be great. I think the show would love that. But yeah, that's all for this episode. Tony, anything coming up that we should be aware of on Challenge Fandom this week? Episode recaps, any interviews, anything coming out that we should be on the lookout for?
Nothing jumps to mind. Mostly like our recap. We record today is Thursday. We record Friday. Hopefully a pretty quick turnaround on that, and then then it's basically just another recap. And I think was like 3 episodes left of the Challenge
Two.
USA.
Is tonight 12 or 13? Tonight's 13, right? No,
Thir-
tonight's 12, because I thought it was going to be the finale and it wasn't. Or it isn't. So yeah, tonight's 12.
Okay.
3 episodes left, counting the one that is airing in 30 minutes as of right now.
Yeah, so we'll do the recaps on that. Then we're gonna fire off a cast breakdown of 39 somewhere in the mix between when potentially when USA 2 ends and when 39 begins, which is like a 6-day turnaround. So there will be a period of time where we will inundate our feed with just new episodes.
Love it.
And I think you'll be doing the same.
Same here. Yeah, I'll have some overlap. Try to, fingers crossed, get the full preview out. I did cast reaction when they took off for filming, so we'll get the full preview out hopefully on 9 days out on the Monday, 9 days before, again, the 16th, because I'm good at math, and the second time around I nailed that math. So yeah, go follow, go subscribe to Challenge Fandom, subscribe, follow here, go follow Tony as well on Instagram, and we will be back next week for episode 3 someday, sometime after episode 3 airs. Thanks to everyone for listening. Peace.